already got it from the title. Um, just as a means of maybe some SIG representation, here's my 226. No 320s are found in this household. But that being said, this video is about the 320. So I'll try to tell my story as concise as I can. But back in 2019 to 2020, when I first started getting into firearms, and my girlfriend at the time before I got married, we were just straight up range monkeys, no two ends about it. That's all we did together was go to the range about 3 to 4 times a week whenever we could, because we also worked together, so we would drive straight to the range after that. So at least at that time, pretty much for any compact or even full-size weapon comparison, we always rented the what is it now, M17, M18. And for the life of me, even after the first time we rented it, because we did it as a benchmark, since that was the military sidearm and the one that was being pushed by the staff. But we always rented it, never purchased it for ourselves. But we always used that as a benchmark because of the hype around it. And at the time, I believe I had a Canik TP9 SFX and a Taurus G3 as my primary pistol weapons at the time. It wasn't too long into that I ended up getting the 226 as well. So that was like pretty much my 3 throughout that year. And she ended up shooting the Canik more. That's actually her gun. But that's what we had all together at the time. But that being said, even after the first time that I shot the 320, and I'm pretty sure it was M17, I didn't like it. Like, even from the start, there was always this notion of, it surprised me. And I felt a little bit embarrassed because this was, again, still at the beginning stages of me shooting firearms. But I always felt this jerk that came from its recoil that, like, I didn't experience with any other full-size firearm, including my 226. Even though the I guess you kind of say the snap or the physical sensation of the recoil, at least from what I could see it, the 226 definitely, the bore axis has something to do with how kind of it flips, but it never came across as a surprise to me. Like, it never startled me. And this kind of ended up coming into conversations after maybe 2 or 3 times of renting it. Actually, probably around the 4th time we rented it, that we ended up going home and we just had a sit-down discussion on the 320 and nothing else, because I kept asking her why she kept using it as a benchmark, because by about the 2nd and 3rd time that she was renting it, I was like, do you actually plan on buying it? Because I have some concerns from how it shoots. And she was like, no, we just continue to use it as a benchmark. And it's like, well, that's fine. Because neither of us were Glock or CZ people at the time. I ended up picking up a Glock and a CZ in that year, but in the compact and subcompact versions. But that being said, once we had the discussion about the 320, well, this is me getting to the point here. So sorry, I was just building up to it. That largely our concerns were that she also found it that it was, whenever you start pressing the trigger and once you break the trigger, that it always felt immediate. And I looked at it, I was like, that's typically, like, whenever I read about it in a magazine or so, or in an article, that's supposed to be a good thing. It's supposed to just break and you get, your shot out, it's done, and you get ready for the next one. But there's something with the 320 that that I was trying to articulate, that she just nailed it. That I was just like, yeah, but it always surprises me. But you should be surprised when the gun goes off, right? And it's like, no, but it feels more of a shock, and if anything, it actually is more startling. And I was just like, oh God, those are the words I was looking for. Because I was like, why does it keep actually shocking me that it goes off versus any other gun, which like I will anticipate and hopefully don't flinch from. But it felt like with the 320, anytime that it actually went off, that it didn't feel like I even have an opportunity to flinch, which is kind of like you would think that would make it like a better shooting gun or whatever. But this is just the sensation of recoil that I'm just trying to convey. So, and she just like flat out said it right after that, that it was just like, she was like, yeah, I actually believe it has a hair trigger. And it's like, okay, maybe that's the proper way to describe it, at least from the way that we were renting them. And I believe of all the times we only rented the M18 once. Well, for the most part, we rented the M17, but still, sensation was the same. That it was just like, man, why does this gun seem eager, like really eager to fire? That was how we described it. And I think that was one that I mentioned. I was like, yeah, it just seems eager to go off. Like, not necessarily that you won't make it go off without the trigger, because even then there was like already some things about it that we had gone over, just like, what you call a six incident now, but nothing as prevalent as it is now in 2026, looking back to 2020. But even in 2020, there was some history behind it, but it was mostly contained to like the military trials and stuff like that. Cool. But either way, there was always a sensation that, yeah, this thing kind of acts like a hit, at least from our first experience, of a trigger that is eager to go off, a hair trigger, which feels still kind of like wrong to say because of the fact that the trigger did its job. It never not went off without pressing the trigger, but it always was like an anticipation of that recoil that was just like, it doesn't do what every other gun that we fired, even between a striker fired or even a hammer fired gun. Like I said, I had the 226 at the time, and it never shocked me or startled me that the gun would go off, unlike the 320, which was like, the pull was always it. And let me prefix this: the pull never felt like you made it all the way back and went against a wall. It always felt like as soon as you touched the wall, it went. So you may need to excuse my articulation on it, because if you have a 320 or if you have recent experience with a 320, I'm talking about 6 years back at least. So, take that with a grain of salt. But that's always been my recollection of live firing a 320. Haven't did any type of dry fire at all at the time with it. So you may chop it up to break in, but it was the store's model that they always used for renting purposes. So I can't really say it was the best condition 320 or if it was well taken care of, but I knew that it was used, and at least on some level it was vetted that it would work properly and operate properly. But it it always had this notion that even when you're pressing it, the bang is always going to jolt you. So that's been kind of like not necessarily evidential to me that you having more incidents that are showing up or having um, any type of testing that may show that the 320 is dangerous or um, to some extent needs a redesign of some sort. I have no technical background to even go into that. Pretty much everything I have is my subjective feel and opinion on my time at the range with the 320, even in 2020, that was really colored by its experience of always surprising me for its trigger feel and the trigger break. So you can make of that as you will. Just wanted to share my experience on it. Even putting a hold on my own content to kind of get the story out, just because I feel it's important to just add my view on it for whatever reason. But should you have stuck this far or so far into the video this far, I just want to say thank you for your time. Feel free to share your opinions down below. If this resonates with anyone, cool. If you think it's hogwash, that's also cool. But again, thank you for your time. Appreciate it. So take care, and then again next week I'll get back to my regular content. See you.